Hi, I wanted to give you an overview of my upcoming fall course for Berkeley Ollie, and it's a taste of Irish literature. This is going to be a sampling of the lyrical voices of mostly 20th century and 21st century Irish literature to explore the social and political flavor of Ireland's various national identities. Hopefully, this will be especially interesting to those of you going with Berkeley Ollie on the upcoming Ireland trip in October. This course ends right before that trip begins, and it's really offered in conjunction with that. We're sort of hoping to wet your whistle for that trip with a little bit of literature before you go. We will be looking at short fiction, poetry, and drama. We'll get kind of a small taste in a short course of different all the different persona that Irish literature can take on in its various iterations, from the sort of mystical fairy rings of Irish folklore and mythology, which is a whole genre of its own, to literature that represents the long decades of poverty and deprivation for so many Irish citizens for so long, and the long political struggles for autonomy or home rule in the Irish Revolution at the beginning of the 20th century that resulted in the Irish Free State, and then later the conflict in Northern Ireland that represented in so many more short stories about the Troubles. And basically the musicality of the language as well, and just a particular flavor of the speech that you get through the literature. So, of course, we're going to read a lot of Yeats from his early work that's influenced by a lot of Irish mysticism when he's a young poet to his later, more politically engaged poetry. We'll really see him evolve from a traditionalist to a modernist over the course of his long career. And several other poets, obviously Seamus Heaney as well. Um, Yvonne Boland, Nuala O'Connell, Lewis MacNeice, Paul Muldoon, Patrick Kavanagh, Biddy Jenkinson, Patrick Pearse, Maeve McGuckin, let's see, Paula Meehan, several poets. And some of these poets only write in Irish or Irish Gaelic and get translated into English as a political statement, even though their first language is actually English. And so a lot of this poetry addresses the sort of central question of language and nationalist language. A lot of the literature in general addresses that, in the face of British imperialism, who gets to decide what language is, and what's nationalist about language. And so we'll look at those poets, but also a lot of short fiction, obviously by James Joyce, but also by Fiona Barr, Mary Beckett, John Montague, William Trevor, Eilish Ní Rivne, Colin McCann, um, several short stories that we'll look at, and also some drama. We'll read the brilliant post-colonial play Translations by Brian Friel, and that's about language preservation as well. I said post-colonial, but in many ways, so much of Irish literature is post-colonial literature. And we will also read a short George Bernard Shaw play and a short Yeats play, if I can cram it all in. So we'll see how many things we can read and what you guys want to cut out and add in. But I want to clarify, this is not a course in Irish political history, but of course, so much of their literature is framed and informed by their history of revolution and national struggle that we will, of course, contextualize the works within that when it's appropriate in that framework. But mostly we're reading the literature to get a sense of Irish attitudes towards England and the British Empire, which, needless to say, are not monolithic. There's a whole spectrum of what those attitudes look like from the Irish. But also, more importantly, just the way that Ireland itself has been represented by its citizens, by its artists. And what is often captured is this simultaneous deep love for and frustration with their nation and national personality. So it's an exciting canon that they've got. And so I would really look forward to reading it with you. I hope you'll join me.